Are you interested in strengthening your family unit, or have you ever felt helpless while helping others? Keep listening as our guest Dereck addresses some of these topics on the Birds Words podcast, where stories of grit and faith meet. I'm John Birdwell, your host. Well, we wrapped up our first episode with Dereck, and I was so moved with everything that you had to share. And so now we're gonna jump into a little bit of the culture there in South Africa, in Cape Town, where you're at. Before we talk about something that you're passionate about and you've helped to develop and critique a model for, which is marriages and helping people with their marriages and providing helpful insights, and I'm going to let you talk about that. But in the meantime, what about life there? What is life like? What's something that you keep in your office? What do you do during the day?
Okay. Yeah, you asked a lot of questions and they're pretty loaded.
Yeah.
Cape Town is probably one of the most beautiful parts of the world.
Uh-huh.
I've been to many parts of the world, and I think parts of America is unbelievably beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi River,
Yeah.
I think that we've driven over is just phenomenal. It is just incredible. And parts of America is just amazing, especially Smoky Mountains and those areas. Cape Town, on the other hand, we drive on the proper side of the road, which is the left side. Which is the left side.
Okay, all right.
And no, it's a bit different. We drive on the left side of the road. I got into my daughter's car here and I grabbed for the steering wheel and there was nothing. So it is definitely a different mind shift. We drive on the left side of the road, and by God's grace, we live in a part of the country that is pretty well managed.
Okay.
The parts of the country we've been governed by a government which has allowed various parts where they are the majority governors to literally fall to pieces. Infrastructure, so it's sad in parts of the country. Is very, very sad. But the place that I live, we've got wonderful schools, incredible beaches, beautiful mountains, and part of my day, I drive about 7 to 8 minutes to the office every day, and which is a lovely drive. I drive between some trees in a part of the area where I live, and I get to my office around about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I try to be there every morning at 8 because it gives me a chance to have a meeting with my secretary in the office. We talk what is on the table, and I'm there every day till 1 o'clock. And the reason for that is that people know they can walk in at any time and they can find me there.
Oh, yeah.
Accessibility.
Open door policy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I think that is so important, is that people know that. And sometimes people arrive just for prayer. They'll arrive and say, I'm glad you're here. I wasn't sure whether you'd be here, but you're here, and I said, what happened if I wasn't here? And they'd say, well, I would have called you maybe. So by that, I am very blessed that I could see people during the day and have some coffee with them and just talk and pray with folk. And on my desk, I have a picture of my wife and my children.
Yeah.
And my grandchildren and my daughter and son-in-law. And those photographs remind me of why I am where I am. And I think so often we have a very different view. We say, well, I'm there because of Jesus, and that's true. But I believe there is a fundamental reason that keeps me anchored every day. And when I look at the photograph of my wife and my children, I know why I do what I do, because it represents for me the families that I serve. Just to take back to your question about marriages, many years ago I was a young preacher. I was about 34, and I had a crisis because there was a marriage that was falling apart. There'd been marital unfaithfulness. There was a sense of loss, betrayal, and all the rest of it. And nothing I threw at it helped. Nothing. And I realized my vulnerability at that time, and I'll never forget when the people left my office, I sobbed before God. I said, I don't know what to do. All my training, all my theological education could not help me understand that there was something I wasn't seeing at the time. And that's when I embarked on a journey to discover what other modalities there were that could help me be more effective. At that time, I studied, a friend of ours came and suggested we attend an imago couples therapy weekend away, which we did. And that was remarkable because it helped me see things differently. I then understood that there are three things that happens in the life of every individual. You are born into a relationship which you have no choice over. You are hurt in a relationship, in a primary relationship, in your family, through whatever it might be, through death, through divorce, through family problems, be it alcohol abuse, be it marital unfaithfulness, be it drugs, whatever it might be, abandonment, and all of those issues, a child has to be raised. And it does hurt the child. It hurts the parent, the people involved, who then try to inadvertently then try to make sense of their lives. And then I went on to do my master's degree in couples therapy, but I then designed a model where you actually deal with, and you made a comment in the first episode on getting down and dirty, the complexity of that relationship.
Yeah.
And so within that, I adopted a mechanism which is biblical, a dialogical methodology, which is actually an imago construct, using a structured dialogical process to help the hurting couple to just talk in a structured way. Mm-hmm. In other words, you elicit specific answers from them to help understand, and in that process, you help people to make sense, not only of their present, but their past, but also the question is, what are we going to do for our future? Mm-hmm. And so the modality is recognizing the past, no matter how difficult it is, working through the complexities of the present, acknowledging the past, but also acknowledging the presence of Jesus Christ and God that opens up the possibility for the future. And so within that, people then are healed from their pain, their trauma, their hurt. They learn to heal from their mistrust. They help their partner to literally articulate to them, what is it that I can do to help you to heal from where you're at? What will help you to be able to overcome the feelings of uncertainty, feelings of doubt that I can help you with? And so in this wonderful, unique Ephesians 5 moment where God uses the most incredible, underestimated and underemphasized imagery of marriage and His church. That, for me, becomes the ultimate healing mechanism, where Christ literally heals people from their pain, but also as husband and wife, together being the image of God, literally reconstructs not only themselves, but also the lives of their children. And so that for me becomes the working model of healing through the cross. One of the most beautiful things for me is John the Baptist, and I think I might have mentioned it in our talk, was when John the Baptist saw Jesus, his nephew. He says to him, "There's the Son of God." And he says, "He's come to be the Savior of this world." And he makes a comment, he says, "I'm not worthy to even tie his sandals." But he understands one thing, and he says, "I must become less so that he can become more." Ephesians 5:21 speaks to that for me, where he speaks of the husband and the wife, where Paul writes and he says, "Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ." And for me, it's a coming together of the husband and wife to the cross of Christ, submitting and losing each other in that complete surrender of their lives out of submission for Christ. And so an entirely new vision is inculcated by Jesus Christ and the cross, where it now becomes a kingdom agenda. Not just about having a home and having children, but it becomes about a kingdom construct, where everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we are, surrounds the sacred stewardship of God's kingdom. Raising a child doesn't just become about giving him food and drink, but a kingdom construct where I'm preparing my child to play a vital role within the kingdom of God. My wife is not just my wife to bring forth children that we are blessed to nurture and her to suckle in that image, but also a wife that is holding the potential world changer of this world in her hands. And so my life and that construct changes just from the mundane to the superlative.
Wow, that's incredible.
Where someone that has gone through a difficult episode in their life, that episode becomes the very vehicle that is used. And I love 2 Corinthians chapter 1, where Paul says that we feared even of life, but that happened so that. And I love that because everything that happens to us for us as Christians, husband and wife, becomes about, it has meaning. Mm-hmm. And so our homes, when we speak to people that have lost children or lost relatives, it becomes a unique enablement toward being able to minister from a position of great humility, but also great pain. But the idea that it becomes and it starts to make sense. I love this. I love when Paul says in 2 Corinthians 1:9, "Indeed in our hearts we felt the sentence of death." And I love the way he caveats that, and he says, "But this happened that we may not rely on ourselves, but on God, who raises the dead." And for me, that is what saved my life.
Yeah.
When I said, God has taken the life of my son, but he's able to raise him again. And so I do not fear. He has delivered us from such a deathly peril, and he will deliver us. And on him we have set our hope, so that he will continue to deliver us. And you made a comment earlier. You said the blood of Christ continually washes, continually sanctifies, continually restores us.
Yeah, regenerates.
Exactly.
So many things, yeah.
Exactly. It's a continuation. And then he says, and this is our boast, our conscience have testified that we have conducted ourselves in the world, especially in our relationship with you, in the holiness and sincerity that we are from God. We have done so not according to worldly wisdom, but according to God's grace. And the reason I love that is because my PhD now will focus on theology primarily, rather than on psychology, which it has in the master's degree. And the reason for that is that there is a pivotal point where human wisdom is insufficient, and where the supernatural power of God, only found in the gospel of Christ, can actually step into that marriage and turn it around. And I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah, so you did a wonderful job unpacking all of those questions that I threw at you.
I hope I have.
You did. You did a great job there. So what piqued your interest in the study on marriage? You might have touched on it. Was there one thing in particular? Did you just feel naturally inclined to head that direction with it? Because you spend a lot of your time, it sounds like, thinking about these things, doing research, and so what made you want to take that unit, the family unit, and kind of put the magnifying glass on that specific thing? Anything in particular?
Yes. What had happened with me was, I think it was a 4-month-old baby on the arms of her mother, looking into the eyes of this young girl, that almost broke me. And I believe that there are one of two things that can happen to you in a crisis. It can either make you or break you. If we think of Peter, I think it's Matthew 14, where Jesus says to him, come. And then Peter says, if you say I must come, I'll come. He steps out of the boat and he walks to Jesus. And what's remarkable about that story is that he was further away from the boat to lean back and grab the end of the boat. And he was nearer to Jesus that his faith faltered. And I almost call that falling forward into the arms of Jesus, because he grabs you and he says, oh, you have little faith. And for me, that was a moment where I literally felt so helpless. And what it did was, through that specific lens, it caused me to review the unique nature of the Church of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay.
The powerful construct of community, the reconstruction of humanity, where he would have godly fathers, godly mothers, connect, talk with one another, encourage one another, where there is a completely different ethic that governs the management of the church, with lovable elders and their wives, deacons that serves the needs of his people, love that is cared for, that all ministries that are there reaches into vital aspects that are messy at times. We think just of our benevolence ministry, where we have, I think, about 21 families that are taken care of every month, and how with surgical precision those can be overseen and carefully ensured that their needs are met. Where we look at our youth, where their needs are being met, not just in terms of their spiritual needs, but also how they struggle with peer pressure and to help them to drill down and bring together the older Christian boys and men to be able to help them through that and share with them how they navigate through those complexities.
Right, yeah.
Feelings of I don't belong, to feelings of I'm not valued, feelings of uncertainty, feelings of falling in love, meeting a lovely girl and she doesn't want me, or I feel rejected, and also
kids never deal with those things.
Exactly, they don't.
Oh, it hits just everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And to be able to be that nurturing nursery and crucible where people can feel safe and vulnerable, and know that we will treat their hearts with the greatest of respect. And therein lies the idea that I say again, I have no right to step into your life.
So you find a lot of, You find a lot of satisfaction in helping people to, how would you define it? You step in to help with the counsel in the marriage world. You find satisfaction in helping them to what exactly?
I find satisfaction in just helping them to find their unique attachment to God.
Yeah, that's an incredible aim.
Absolutely. It says, and funny enough, I marvel at times how God steps in and uniquely connects with people that I could not have predicted the way it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Let me just give you one example. There's one particular person that I'm dealing with now, and we're dealing with trauma, and it's not important what the traumas are. And one of the comments she said to me was, surely you must know how you want this thing to work out. I said, no. I am marveling like you how God's going to work this thing out.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I says, I'm just so privileged that you've allowed me on this journey with you, to be able to be honored as a fellow traveler with you, and to watch how God's going to work this out for good.
Yeah.
That's me. I said just that. And I'll tell you why. There was a passage of scripture that convicted me where Jesus speaks to Peter, and he says to him, Peter, who do people say I am? And then Peter says, you are the Son of the living God. And he says, flesh and blood could not have convicted you of that. I've started to learn that we are but a willing participant of God in this entire process.
Yeah, and this has been on my mind recently, about who we are.
Yeah.
I was doing some study on the word identity.
Yeah.
When it actually came into an idea.
Yeah.
And now this is probably all wrong because I'm early in my study.
Sure.
However,
yeah,
based on the limited information that I have now, it was like Latin. The word is idem, and it was actually about identical.
Yeah.
And so what was unique to me about that was then psychologists kind of took this, well then, so it went from next to nothing, earlier on in whatever hundreds it was, and then 1800s, 1950, and psychology starts to really peak. So then, boom, it's booming now. So this idea of identity, but really a lot of the problems come from seeking self-seeking, and so it's like this big ploy.
Yeah.
Because you think about the two things that Jesus said, and versus what the world says, right? It's like, what does the world say? Well, go find yourself out there in Maldives, right?
Yeah.
Go find yourself in the water, on Instagram. But it's like Jesus tells us two things. Don't deny yourself.
Absolutely.
And if you want to find yourself, lose yourself, which reminded me of your model. If you want to have a biblical marriage, you need to lose yourself and find your true identity.
Absolutely.
In Christ. And so that word, is really unique in how we throw it around there.
Absolutely.
And how it became popular with psychology. And so what we seek now. And it's actually a counterintuitive solution, I think. It's not, if you want to find yourself, you go seek yourself. Mm-hmm. No, if you find yourself, then you'll find yourself broken and in sin and hurting, and you won't like what you find. But if you seek God, and I think what you said, you hit the nail on the head there, because throughout my few decades that I've been alive, our perception changes on some things.
Very much.
And when you go through the high school years, it's very much accomplish. I work hard, especially on the field, and then results come. Well, what I've begun to find now that has blown me away, the most incredible things that bypass any achievements that I could ever have done myself. They're gifts. They're gifts from God.
Absolutely.
A prudent wife. Where is she from?
Absolutely.
She is from the Lord.
Absolutely.
The
James
miracle.
1:17.
The miracle of a child. And so I was reflecting recently. Guess who I was not focused on when my beautiful wife was coming down the aisle? Mm-hmm. Me. I was not focused on me. Exactly. I was focused on her and her beauty. And in that moment, you can't even put words to the feeling.
Exactly.
When my son was born, guess who I was not looking at? I was not looking at my face in the mirror. I was looking at the miracle that God has just worked. And in those moments, it bypassed every achievement.
Exactly.
Every career ribbon and commendation. It was because God gives the best gifts.
Absolutely.
And so so I think you're right there. And so really in the third, I'll add a third, is service. Jesus said he came not, even though the Son of God, he came not to be served but to serve. And so a lot of times, to find some satisfaction outside of our pain, we feel better when we help other people. And we're focused on them.
Absolutely.
And so really, I think the lie is focus on yourself.
Exactly.
Go find yourself.
Exactly.
The world will tell you who you are out there. And then Jesus is like, no. No, if you want to know who you are, come to me.
Exactly.
I'm the way, the truth, and the life, right? So,
exactly. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses himself?
That's exactly right. Exactly. So there's a lot of lies out there.
Very much so. In fact, if you look at Genesis, it wasn't Adam that says it's not good for me to be alone. It was God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
God recognized. Mm-hmm. He said Adam was good, and he says he created him, and he says he was good. And then he says, I want you to name the animals. And he went and he did that. And then God says, it is not good for Adam to be alone. It wasn't you and me. It wasn't an innate feeling of, I need this to make myself be who I need to be. It was God that says, I will give you a wife. He gave him the wife. And I mean, Adam went bananas when he saw Eve. He says, that's my better half. You know? I look at Sue. When I spoke with her, when I met her, I remember it. We married 40 years, end of this year. And I remember seeing her practically every day. But suddenly, one day, I viewed her differently. And I was like, hang on a minute. Who's this woman? It was as if God drew my attention to her. Wow. And she said, the similar comment was, she says, I looked at you for quite a while and I was wondering, would he see me? Would he see me? And I think we don't emphasize that enough. The fact that Adam saw Eve and he said, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. It is almost something that was lyrical, that he recognized himself in her. And I think when I look at the Imago model, which I work on, is the idea of Imago Dei, is the model of God's image inside of my husband, inside of my wife, and rediscovering that uniqueness.
Yeah, that's a powerful model.
Very much so. That is why it's called Dei Imago, because it's not Imago Dei, but Dei Imago means I am in the center of God's will, and therefore my image is there. Jesus speaks of it in Philippians 2 when he says that we need to be like him. Even though he was God, he emptied into himself. He disinvested of self. And I think for us that is the hardest to do, because in the idea of identity lies the idea of self-importance, self-aggrandizement. But it's in the very emptying of yourself that God fills.
Right.
It's in the very disinvesting of self where God puts himself inside of us. I love the way even when Jesus, I think it's in John 13:3, where the famous foot washing scene where Jesus, they say these words where it says, and Jesus, knowing who he was and why he was there, picked up the cloth and put it around his arm, and he washed feet.
Yeah.
It's in the very identity of who we are that we serve.
Yeah, and that's where the freedom comes. I think
Exactly.
that people, it's the counterintuitive, it's the people think the other way.
Yeah.
But that's really where you find yourself.
Absolutely.
And at that, the best version. God, you are a new creation.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of it all. So, so as we start to wind down, do you have something kind of practical to give? Because we don't have time to get into all the things that go sideways. We're not going to get into all that. But for someone who's just a married couple and is listening to this and just thinks, oh, here's a practical thing that I can do or think about, and it can affect my perception and then change my action. What's something practical that that a married couple could do? Any age, something that might be a benefit. Do you have something?
Yes, sir. I would say to couples is have a plan and work your plan.
Okay.
And the idea around that is to make time, to invest time in your relationship.
Okay.
The reason for that is that we get too busy with busyness itself. Raising children, going to work, cleaning the yard, going to worship, doing this, doing that. We get so involved with doing things that we do not focus much on being.
Okay.
And that is needed.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, Americans don't know anything about being too busy, so we'll have to not. All right. Appreciate you being on the show. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here. Love you, brother.
Love you. Thanks. You just finished listening to episode 5, part 2 of the Birds Words podcast.